All right, we got our next speaker up and ready. And moving on. It's rare that a speaker is taller than me as well. Okay, this next talk will be focusing on building a framework for optimizing your digital marketing ROI. And that's something that was the theme of today's, these last 2 days' discussion. So we'll be hearing a little bit more about that. He is the managing director of Spiralytics, am I pronouncing correctly?
Yeah.
A performance marketing firm specializing in ROI-driven marketing campaigns. Jimmy is a graduate of Rutgers University with BS in physics and an MS in manufacturing systems engineering from Stanford University. Go figure why he's into digital marketing. We'll find out.
I'll tell you in a bit.
Yeah, we'll find out. He started his career optimizing high-technology supply chains and factories with i2 Technologies, now JDA, and Cypress Semiconductor. In 2009, he adopted these optimization techniques to internet performance marketing and has since launched several companies in the Philippines. The most recent is Zalora in 2012 and Spiralytics in 2013. Please welcome Jimmy Cassells.
Thanks, guys. So this, a little background on what I do. I came to the Philippines in 2005 working for Cypress Semiconductor in Cavite. And what I was tasked to do is take every metric that factory was responsible for and just drive it out through optimization and improvements in software. And in 2009, they wanted to send me back to California, and probably for a lot of the same reasons that the previous speaker wanted to stay. It's, I love it here. And, we ended up starting a company here that was supposed to be somewhat of a lendingtree.com for the Philippines. And it's done okay, but through then I've started a bunch of stuff and really got into the optimization side of web marketing. And so what I wanted to get into, like, I'm not a visual guy. I'm not the presentation guy. I don't have the cool movie. We're the mechanics behind the scene that they're trying to get the most out of your campaigns. And this is for mainly people buying. So we saw a presentation earlier where we saw if you run multi-channel campaigns, you get a 45% increase in the overall output of it. No, I'm much more tactical than that. If I run a Facebook ad, you convert, you get the order. Where should I spend my money? So I'm going to get into a few of the things and tactics for how to do that here. 6 steps. Let's see if this works. So 1, every page on your site. Some sites have 10 pages, some have 100,000 like Zalora. Each one has a goal. Either you're going to sell something or you're going to get information, you're going to download video, download music. Each one you need to know what it's there for and you need to encourage that behavior. Once all of that's figured out, someone on your technical team needs to go in and check out the site, make sure everything's set up for tracking. I'm going to talk about a little bit how to do that. I'm going to talk about conversions, so the types of conversions that we can track and how to optimize them. Then when you look at where the traffic's coming from, how do you organize it into either the teams that are concerned with the revenue from that, or just in general. And I'll give you a taste for how that works. Set targets. So this is kind of the hardest thing that people struggle with. How much should I be paying for each conversion that I make on the site? And I haven't had too many deep discussions here with that, but we'll get into how to start having that discussion. You can sit down with your teams or your clients and have the same discussion. We can go through the math behind it and some of the decision factors. And then finally, once everything is up and running, all you amazing creative guys have some great banner ads, visual media. Once you finally drive it to the site, measure it, optimize it, move the money around. So, are my marketing efforts working? Which channels are performing? And up or down on the cash flow. In 2014, if you're going to allot X to digital to try to sell things online, how much should go there? And how do I optimize that? How do I know that I'm getting my money's worth? How do I work on it? And it's not that hard. I know Dan was talking about some pretty cool reports, but we can do some nice basic things here. So goals. One of the most basic pages, on the web. It's asking you to do one thing. Download. So, my next example is the extreme opposite. Not to pick on anybody, but Halo Halo Mall, there's a million things to do on their web page. So when you come in, this wasn't random. They really thought through what they wanted you to do when you get to the site. But there's just a whole lot more things. You can sign up, you can start shopping, you can register for domains, you can push this button, but all of it's trackable. And it's there for a reason. It drives revenue. You really need to know where people are going on your site, and are they going where you wanted them to go. So first type of conversion is the obvious one. This is Amazon. I want to buy a book about being an entrepreneur. The only other color is add to cart. So how do you track this? Then the other next one would be an inquiry. Let's say I want to run my business better. I talk to Accenture. I'm not buying anything, but it's still big money for Accenture when you click the Contact Us button. They want to know, where did you come from? How did you find us? How can they improve the marketing to get the right person to the site? Fab. If you've ever signed up, which I have, to their newsletter. So I went to the site yesterday, threw the screenshot in. There's a nice drop down that knew I haven't been there in a while. The cookie probably expired. Sign up. So if you sign up here, guess what? You're getting 2 emails per day. Default. And that's how they make their money. It's cheaper to send emails. People, if they opt in, they want it. They're going to buy because they're sending you great new products that Fab's putting on the site, and they have enough cool things to talk about. Back to this case, it's a download, and there's a different way to track this. And I sorry to bring her in here again, but I'm not going to say the name. But I went on Huffington Post. Of course, this has been on here all week long. Why? Huffington, they make money off ads, right? So they want to generate more views of every angle of that presentation. Ads. So if you're a news publisher, you want to know which sources are driving the most page views for you. So you can turn around and talk to people who want to put their brand here and say, yep, we get 1 million page views a month. Maybe it's because of her, I don't know, but that sells more. Then there's a bunch of little things like on the Halo Halo Mall that did I sign up for Facebook? Did I make a phone call? Did I put something in my wish list? Any little micro conversion that you can do on the site, and learn from it. And I think most people ignore that kind of thing. But what are people doing, and how do I get them to do what I want them to do? Tech audit. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but basically garbage in, garbage out. If every page on your site isn't telling you what the people are doing there, the code isn't installed properly, it's going to be garbage in and garbage out, right? Your tech guys should be able to figure this out. If not, hire someone who knows analytics pretty well. And for the more sophisticated implementations, actually, how many here have opened up Google Analytics? Good. So you guys know what I'm talking about. I think there's like 50%, which is more than Dan got for SEO. How many know SEO? So we're headed in the right direction. So whoever knows, most sites implement GA. There's non-GA implementations. Rocket, across all of theirs, they implement GA. They implement WebTrek, which of course is a German company. And both are running. You can implement as many as you want. It might slow you down a little bit. But big mistake, if everything is not being tracked properly. Then from there, this person would ask, same question I asked, what are the goals of your site? Each of the major pages, your main page, your categories, your products. What do you want out of that? Are people going to buy? Are they going to inquire? Is it a newsletter sign up? And then we go back and find out, okay, are we tracking everything properly? Then 3, conversion time. So this is a whole big line of conversions about to happen. So on the purchase side, there's e-commerce tracking, which you need to get the tech team involved. A little bit of code added into the checkout cart so that when you click buy, you know exactly what people are buying. And then more importantly, it's tied back to exactly what drove them there. So if you're spending a lot of money on Google AdWords, you're spending on Facebook ads, retargeting, any of those cool technologies that are coming out, these are actual examples from Zalora, obviously. So we ran a campaign with these 3 visuals, and this particular person ended up buying that shoe. So if everything's set up properly, you can create a report every day that shows which exact ad copy plus visual is leading into the sale. And then you start to see correlation here. Like this particular shoe kind of looks similar. This one, nothing. And actually you'll see a lot of nothing. And what we learned over time is that the majority of what you want to do in Facebook is at least grab their attention, get them in the shopping mood. And we only saw, I think, 10% roughly of putting a product here and then buying that exact product. People get to the site, they get in the shopping mood, they move around. But you can't do this analysis unless you have the data. For example, black high heels, bought black high heels, leopard print skirt, went and bought notebooks, leggings, baby stuff. I don't get it half the time, but it's grab your attention. Inquiries, Accenture. I want to hire Accenture. Same thing. Zalora's selling 400, 600 things a day on the site. These guys probably only get a few inquiries a day asking for their services. Wouldn't you like to know where they came from and continue marketing there? This one I'll go through it real quick. It's something called goals. Goals is if I go to one page and then I go to another and I can specify which ones, it'll track it for you. And if someone went through that process, it'll tell you where they came from. So which channel I was using for marketing. It is, for the 50% of you that raise your hands, they just moved this around like 3 weeks ago. So if you come into the main panel, goals are now down here. Very quickly, name your goal. You have 4 choices. Destination is the web pages I was talking about, but you can also track people that stay for a long time. If you're a news publisher, where did those people come from? If I'm spending money, if I'm, that kind of thing. How many visits? How many pages did they see? What's special about them? Events, I'll talk about it in a couple slides, but this is where you put a dollar value to it. Step 2, you start with the destination. So if I'm selling something, this is the page. The best application of goals I can think about is the checkout funnel. So you actually convince somebody to put something in the shopping cart, and then now you have to get a little bit of information. They have to pull out their credit card, they have to swipe, or maybe they use Dragon Pay. That's the number one application for goals, but there's a million other ways to use it. You can assign a value here. And if you notice the first one I talked about, e-commerce, what's different is for every transaction, the exact number that they spent went in there. And what's important about the exact number in e-commerce is where they came from, they might be spending more. And you can correlate that. Goals, it's kind of a blanket number. You don't know what they're buying. It's just you assign a value. It's good for a lead. If you have different types of leads coming into your site, then you can assign smaller values, bigger values, and then you can correlate it back. this is a sample of funnel conversion. One of the main applications is once you get this running, you can make sure technically nothing's wrong with your site. You know, if I happen to have good enough product where, 2,000 people put something in the cart, and then when they get into the checkout or register, then payment, and then finalize the purchase, this is quite a drop off. If I went from 2,000 to 50, something's horribly wrong. Maybe in the checkout process, maybe something's broken. And there's average rates of this, so you can compare to industry benchmarks like a 33%, I think, on average in the U.S. is the conversion rate. I think this particular case is less, and what I've seen, I think I work with 4 or 5 e-commerce sites here. It's more in the 20s range. A lot more people throw it into the shopping cart and then go back to Facebook maybe and get distracted. All right, last is something called event tracking. So when you click that button in Fab, there's a little bit of code that runs, and you also have, you can't set this up in Google Analytics. You have to ask your tech team. And it's called event tracking. If you're curious, there's more information here. But if you don't go to another page on the site, then you can still track where they came from. And so this is very important because Fab's #1 revenue driver is the newsletter. And I'd be willing to bet the majority of e-commerce sites here, that's the #1 revenue generator, especially the deal sites. What this gives you, this is an example of someone I work with. Let's say the Accenture example, where I'm only getting a few leads a day. If I have event tracking installed, I know where these leads came from. So if they click the Contact Us form, they put in their name, their information, email comes to us. But on the backside, we have Google, telling us that was the source. It wasn't on something I spent. It wasn't CPC. It wasn't a newsletter. It wasn't direct. But it tells me the keyword. It tells me, not provided is a whole nother story. If you're logged into Google while you're doing a Google search, the keyword's not passed. But when that person is not logged in, you get some nice juicy information. So this is a local BPO. Which leads to some awesome information for the CEO of the company, right? Everyone who's contacting them in May, where did they come from? What keyword did they type in? Which country did they come from? On the site itself, where did they contact us from? What are they interested in? And then all of it's tied back. So where are these people coming from? I mean, there's anecdote. This one I know for a fact is a guy that was hunting down pricing. Competing BPO. Because we could see that he came from India when he filled out the form, he was not legitimately asking for business. He was, trying to find out the prices of these guys. But the rest of them are strong candidates. And then the sources. We've seen this, or versions of this, where everyone coming from pictures all day long. So this is an example of someone I'm working with now, every channel that they're tracking through their reporting system. So, and I sorted this in the conversion funnel. Outbound is all the amazing visuals and TVCs. When we get into digital marketing, it's a lot more targeted. Intent is the search side of things. Warm leads would be retargeting. They've already been to the site. They know us is all the branded searches, and they want us. They've already signed up for the newsletter. They've already clicked through to get to the site. And then, of course, direct channel. They've got you bookmarked. Well, there's a lot of junk that's stuck in the direct channel, and that's something else that you need to look out for. All right. Newsletter. Almost anyone selling something online is sending a newsletter. But I can tell by the newsletters that are coming out, you're not tracking everything. And you can see it on the backside in analytics. These are your sources. These are Google's version of what I just showed you on the previous slide. Paid CPC, direct channel, organic, Facebook. This is email marketing that somebody didn't tag. This. And this one they tagged, but there seems to be a mistake here. But every email, every newsletter that you send out, you have a chance to get better at it every day. And the mechanism for doing that is called UTM Tracking. And it's very simple to set up, and you can pass 4 pieces of data into your newsletter. And what it does is you can reset this source. So if your source is Yahoo and referral, that really should say newsletter and email. And so this is how we reset it. 3 and 4 is really important. That's the campaign you just sent. I sent one today. I'm not as good as fab.com. Right? When did I set it? And then I can explain what content was in there. And then newsletter team can get together if you're sending one per day. Let's say we meet Mondays, we pull all the data together. You can look at a report. Oops. And here's an example of Lazada, who does track everything incredibly well. This, if I were to click here, and you can go ahead and do this with any of them that are coming out, this is the link that it takes you to. And it's actually stretched out all the way over here. But they tag it with a source, medium, campaign, and content. Right? So these are the 2 I talked about, newsletter, email. But from here, I know exactly when I sent it, and I know what I was running. If I was doing segmentation, I was only sending to women, only sending to men. I can split it out here. So at the end of the day, when I sent this, did it work? A lot of people just look at it high level. My newsletter is generating money, but I don't know. Just keep doing it. Right? There can actually be some science behind what you do here. On the back side, you can, and this is a standard report. This is every single newsletter we've ever sent out. This is how many people came. So obviously this one must have had some awesome new product or maybe some big sale that was launched. And it generated a lot of revenue, but wait a second, this one down here on not so much traffic really generated some revenue. So what did we do here? And these are the kind of discussions that you guys can have. It takes 20 minutes to put the data together, sit down with the creative team, sit down with marketing, sit down with the product managers and say, got it, now I understand what's going on. And you can improve the process that way. It's not very time intensive. Same thing for Facebook ads. I ran my first Philippines Facebook ad in 2009. It costed 80 centavos per click. I don't know if you guys probably. I think Facebook back then was filling in the ads with foreign ads just because no one was spending. But same thing. Facebook, you probably advertise the various products that you're selling. If it's Zalora, you're looking at apparel versus shoes versus home and living. If it's a deal site, you're selling travel, you're selling products, you're selling spa and beauty, that kind of thing. But each one of these, each click on each type of ad sends you back to the website, and then you can track each and every one, where it's going, what's working, and then you can have the same Monday meeting. Put the data together, these ads are working, these aren't, let's adjust the budget. You might, and this is a little small, but with Facebook you can do some interesting things. So across the bottom, this is men, so we're advertising with men, and here's the women. Here's the age groups that you can track in Facebook. And then these bars are revenue. So in this dresses category, we're selling more than half to the 25 to 34 age group, right? And this isn't, this is just connecting the dots between your ads and Google Analytics, pulling it out, knowing a little bit of Excel. As digital marketers, marketers, everyone. Everyone needs to understand Excel. VLOOKUP, pivot table chart is how you get it. Is how you get here. What this tells you, some channels aren't working at all, although we're running them. The ones that are, which age groups are working, and then should I shift more budget into these particular campaigns? And you can look at it on a daily basis, or you can spread it out and look at trends. AdWords, we've all been running forever. I won't get into too much detail here, but if you connect the accounts, and I've gone into accounts here that just simply aren't connected. You connect your AdWords to your Google Analytics. They trade data, and all of a sudden a bunch of cost and conversion information comes into Google Analytics. And you can start, I deleted the campaign name, but you can start to compare which campaigns are more effective than others. All right. Targets. How much are you willing to pay for a conversion? This starts to get into more advanced thinking about where you're spending your money. Customer lifetime value. So online, when let's forget about all this offline stuff. Let's forget I might have a store somewhere in the mall in Glorietta. Let's forget about it. Let's think, all right, I'm selling now, and I might have about 3 months of data, and I'm starting to see trends when people are buying more than once. So I need to project out how many times they're going to buy, and that's the lifetime value. Then I look at margins, and then I look at the average revenue per the transactions. There's a whole other section here that people keep touching on, and in an IMAC conference, we could spend all day going into attribution and how to make that decision. But at the end of the day, it really depends on your business, and I think you need the tools to have the discussion. So at least if you understand the concepts, you get someone good in the room, then you can start saying, okay, should we use last interaction? And the answer is no, but that's the default. Should we use a linear attribution? And I guess I don't know how deep the other guys got into, but the normal customer journey isn't I see the Facebook ad, I click, I whip out my credit card, and I buy. No way. There's an offline component to the advertising. There's online. They see a Facebook ad, they sign up for the newsletter. Then eventually they come in and buy. And what attribution does is it lets you think about where I'm spending the money. Are the other steps, and that's what are represented by these little dots here, are the other steps part of that final transaction that happens? And Google, when you log in, the default setting is here. And you really have to know that before you start making these decisions. I typically advocate for something more position-based, which means that the first time the person came to the site, if I'm spending money there, you get a little more credit for that sale. And just to fly through this, say your margins are 20%, on average people are spending 1,200 pesos. Average profit is then 240. I have enough data in my CRM to be able to develop a trend that says, okay, people are spending 4 times on average. Maybe let's say for the next year, I can say once a quarter they're going to spend. That means my acquisition cost to break even on that person is 960 pesos. So when you start running your advertising and you connect it to Google Analytics, you're going to get a report that says today across all my transactions I spent 960. If I spent 2,000, you start to cry, right? You're losing money. If you spend a lot less than that, you're good. So how much less should you spend? That's a company decision. I just threw a number in here, 50%. That means when I sold this guy, I'm making 480 pesos of profit if they buy 4 times on average, which they will. Now, there's a ratio called cost income, which is the person I spent $480 to get a revenue of $1,200. Now in reality, I lost money on that particular transaction, but as long as they come back, and buy the 3 more times, like the numbers say they will, I make my money back. So a lot of people get scared away, and when they see I'm spending 100 pesos, but I'm losing 100 on every transaction, I turn it off. But without thinking this way, and without optimizing on the accounts, it's this is the way to think about where to spend, for online transactions, for online conversion. Back to AdWords. I just went through this exercise recently. Typically in AdWords, you have various strategies. Your own brand. If there's other people bidding on your keyword, the products that you sell, you might work with display, text display. You might work with display banners, related brands, and then remarketing. Each of those might have an average cost per click. But then if you pull data from AdWords in with your analytics, you can then start to say, all right, here's what I spent, here's what I made. Here's the cost-to-income ratio. Oops. And then you can start to make decisions. If we, as a team said, all right, 0.4, I'm willing to spend 240 pesos on a customer. So this account, or this strategy, the product keywords are at a 0.8, this one's at a 0.7, and this one's really unhealthy. So what we did is we started within those campaigns, started working on tech, and if you've been in AdWords, there's a million things you do to improve the performance. So over the course of a month, we were able to take the 0.8 down to a 0.5. We took the 0.7 down to 0.51. Still not at 4, but the trajectory's in the right place. This one was a dead dog. Display banners, what we did is reduce the budget. We'll come back to it later. So we're going to, every team, it's limited. Maybe you have one guy that's the PPC guy, and there's no way that he can implement all of this himself. So work on this later. Get ready for the Christmas season, that kind of thing. But that's the thought process that goes on here. And AdWords. This, what I wanted to say in this slide, everyone wants to know, that one guy, if the numbers say that everyone's going to buy 4 times, but I have 50 customers that bought 8 or more, and they spent on average 2,000 pesos or more, where did I source those guys from? And I haven't seen any of this going on here. A few people I'm working with are playing with it now, but when the transaction happens in your website and you can push that into your CRM because you know the email address, you can key it off the email address, then you can see where that person was originally sourced from and track it for every purchase. And then in the future, as the data starts to come in, you can have the discussion of exactly which channel is bringing me my best customers, and let's put more there. Because the model breaks down. The 0.4 doesn't matter anymore. Because, if they're spending 2,000, I'm willing to spend a little more to get them. Tricky topic to go through, but at least get you thinking about what's possible on the tracking side, on the analytics side. Part 6, optimize. So if you've ever gotten into industrial engineering or any process improvement, right? There's always the plan, do, check, act cycle. I think Deming was the one who started this way back. Same applies for digital marketing, right? Which accounts are we going to run? Where are we going to spend our money? Usually a monthly or a quarterly appropriation, right? Do it. So which channels, budgets, what are our target acquisition costs? Now that you have a framework for having the discussion, that should be incorporated into your quarterly process. And once you guys come up with the numbers, which channels to spend on, how to track it, build it, implement the reporting once a week. If you're spending a lot of money, you're going to do it once a day on the paid accounts. So the reporting, analysis, and then act. What's working, what's not working, cycle it through. And you can do it at each level. AdWords, is it working? Smaller campaign, is it working? You know, down to the lowest level, keywords, are they working? And here's what, back to Excel again, a sample report might look like. By day, by channel, where's, you know, what traffic is being driven, what did it cost, what was my cost per click, and then what is that CIR number? So across the board, of course, I'm paying 1 peso per brand click, no one's bidding on it. Non-brand, I'm paying a lot more, let's say more like 2 per. So this is your product keywords. I want to sell mobile phones. Here's how the CIR moves over time. And you'll tend to see a lot of fluctuation in it. And you'll get a feel for your product line, you know, what's a real fluctuation, what's not, is something going bad, is the team doing their job? You know, rolling averages are a good way to keep an eye on this stuff. And in summary, each page, what is it meant for? What am I trying to drive? Am I actually tracking stuff? Which conversions should I track? Where are people coming from? How much should I be spending on them? And then it's a non-stop process. It's not a set it and forget it. It's an everyday thing. The team will get better at it. And every day they work on it. There you go. That's the data side. It's not like watching a movie. It's more of a marathon.
All right, thank you so much, Jimmy. Round of applause for Jimmy Cassells. Jim, can you have a seat over there? A few more questions, and we'll see from the floor as well if anybody has additional questions. I know it's quite technical. As Jimmy said, it's not full of all the flashy videos, but it's definitely a lot of useful stuff for a lot of you that you may already be doing, or if not, you have to be doing. But Jimmy, tell us about what it takes to convince clients to do these kind of things and how important it is. I mean, they always say we want to know if our money is worth it in investing in these digital campaigns, but talk about how it takes to convince these people to integrate these back ends to their sites, to their campaigns as well, to make it all worthwhile for them.
Gotcha. Well, the work to do something like this is, there's nothing custom. I mean, if you have Google Analytics set up and you have AdWords running, for example, you can pull out the data and put it together. Facebook, there's an export, there's a power editor, there's analytics, you can put it together. A little bit of crunching. Even if you're a small business owner, let's say you guys want to sell one product, one simple plastic thing online, and you have a budget of 100 pesos a day. You want to know what works.
Right.
And then manually, if you're only spending 100 pesos, you can easily go in and see it. You click here, click there. Oh, okay, this is working. Turn those off. So I mean, as soon as you explain to a company, hey, I can show you what's working, what's not, everyone's interested.
Is there any danger of wanting too much information too often? Like you might have a client calling every day, how am I doing? Or is there a time frame that you would advise? You mentioned something like once a week. Is that a safe time frame to generally check up on your statistics?
For the bigger accounts, we do it daily.
Daily, okay. Depends on the volume.
Yeah, you guys all run ads. They fatigue fast. And then if you're spending, let's say, $1,000 a day or $5,000 a day, there's a huge breadth of what's going on. And just catching the fatigue and replacing it, or catching something that's not working, you're saving hundreds, thousands of dollars very quickly. Once a week for a normal size campaign is probably okay.
Is there anything that is on the horizon for Twitter? I mean, you talked about some websites that do e-commerce on the face of it. You talked about some Facebook and Google AdWords as well. But Twitter's growing phenomenally in this country, in this region. We've seen some brands do marketing through endorsements, through personalities, through celebrities, and do some campaigns on that. Is there a way to look at that specifically, or just through where they click through to their websites or their Facebook pages as well?
Actually, we were doing this in the beginning at Zalora. Every tweet that had a link back, we tagged it. So the same thing you would want to do with your newsletters. we were saying this tweet worked, this one didn't, this many people, time of day. So I mean, yes, you can apply it to this, what we're doing, to Twitter. You can apply it to the Facebook posts. You know, if you're really driving a lot of revenue from those channels, you know, you can measure it all.
All right. Well, I've run out of the stuff I wanted to ask Jimmy about, some of my inquiries as well. Anybody out there have additional questions? We got mics on the floor. Do we have any tweets up? We're good? Okay. Well, thank you for the very thorough presentation, Jimmy. Jimmy Cassells, everyone. Thank you.